What have we here? This is kind of something that was unexpected that I picked up recently here. Broadway just sent out an email saying that they had some refurbished models up for sale. And I scooped this up, so we'll see what it is here. And I have had one of these before. However, I have not had a Paragon 3. Oh wow, an ad for Choo Choo shoes. Can't miss that. So what we're really here to see. CSX Ac6000. I had one of these previously in the Paragon 2 with smoke. Didn't particularly care for it. So ended up selling it off. But I did miss having a second CSX unit, so picked up one of these, hoping the Paragon 3 is a little better. I have heard good things about it. Get rid of this. So this is a factory refurb, so not sure what to expect here, whether there'll be box defects, scratch and dent, that sort of thing. Box appears to be in excellent condition. Another ad for Choo Choo shoes. Alright, lots of paperwork here. And there is a little thing here saying that you can turn off the smoke unit, which I will probably do because I think that's kind of stupid on a diesel. Exploded parts diagram, manual. All the things that you would find with a brand new model, and supposedly these have the same warranty on them as a brand new model as well. Smoke funnel. And we'll get this thing out here. Let's see what we're dealing with. Not the easiest thing to get out of here. I wish they would abandon this styrofoam and kind of go to the same kind of packaging as what everybody else uses. Alright, so taking a look at it here. First thing I'm inspecting for is any parts that are broken off. So that would be my first concern. Everything seems to be in order. One little curious spot here on the front is that there's no sill stripe here. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. Front trucks and the rear trucks seem a bit wobbly. Handrails seem in order. I don't detect any paint defects. So we'll go ahead and put it on pause here and start this thing up. Alright, so I'm going to try to approach this whole smoke thing with an open mind here, so we'll go ahead and run it. First thing we want to do is remove this back radiator section, which just kind of pulls up off there. That's universal through Blue Line, Paragon 1, Paragon 2, and Paragon 3 now. There's a little switch in here, which denotes right now, actually, the smoke is turned off. So we'll flip that to on. Also very important before ever running smoke that you actually put some smoke fluid in there. There probably is some in there from Broadway, but you always want to verify that for yourself. And the little exhaust stacks just kind of pull off. They both do come off, but I don't really know that you need to take them both off to fill it. So we're going to put in some hot chocolate. Doesn't smell as good when it's burning as what it does in the bottle, I'll tell you that. And of course I'm managing to get more of it on the model than actually in the model. Some little oil there. Oh well. And put this back together. Come on. There. Back together. So we'll go ahead and fire it up, and as with most Broadways, you have to give it a little blip of the throttle. Pre-programmed to address 3, I'm assuming. So I'll go ahead and give it a little bit of throttle here, and that should trigger the startup sequence. It does. And immediately there's smoke. A lot of smoke, actually. Man, that thing likes the smoke. It's like a turbo fire going on there. So both the headlight and the number boards are on one function, just on the headlight function. And not sure here which one's going to have the ditch lights. I'll have to take a quick look here. This thing is making a ton of smoke. Well, actually the ditch lights are already on. Kind of hard to see. So we'll go ahead and move it to speed step 1 here. I'm like choking in here from all the smoke. Pretty sure Hunter Harrison's gonna get a call from the EPA for this crap. Look at that. It's like an Alco. And the reverse light comes on. Just to test the theory here, we'll see if the sounds are load-based. Seems that they are. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off this smoke before I set off my smoke detector. Alright, that's better. So we'll go ahead and give it a horn blast here. Oh, that is spectacular. Horn's pretty awesome. Not very loud, but love the Doppler effect on that. Also, I'm noticing that the ditch lights aren't flashing. I'm not sure if that's something in the CV program or not. I am noticing a little bit of a noise in the drivetrain. I'm noticing an awful lot of motor noise here, so I have it muted, and we're just going to go ahead and put it on the speed step 1. You'll hear kind of that grindy noise that it's making. And it does increase with speed. Also figured out why the ditch lights weren't working. You do have to, of course, have it in forward. I didn't, apparently. And from somewhere, there's shell rattle coming in there. I'm not really sure where that's coming from. So, I'm going to probably take it apart here and see if I can figure out some of that stuff. A couple other things here, just while we have it. Let's see if I can get it over here. Well, on the front here, yeah, bad light. Yeah. You'll see here that the MU cables are not silver tipped at all. So that's a little disappointing. The LEDs are pretty dull. So I don't really know if there's a way of brightening those up other than switching them out, which I might also do as well. But that's pretty consistent with what I experienced on my Paragon 2 model. So no real difference there. Just taking a look at the rest of it. I mean, otherwise it is a pretty nicely detailed engine. And the MU thing is not a huge deal because I can go ahead and apply some silver paint to that, so it's not going to bother me too much. One other little thing I do notice here too is that there's a slight bit of paint that's scraped off there. I don't know if maybe that's why it was returned. Maybe that and the motor noise. But either way, that's probably something I can touch up, assuming I can get a hold of CSX yellow that's a fair match to that. Also a little bit weird, I don't remember my Paragon 2 model having trucks that were that floppy. Felt a little more solid. So I can't hold too much against this one because it is a factory refurb. So I mean, it may have some issues there, and I mean, this is an engine that for $197, you know, maybe I'm willing to pay that, but for $240, if it had these problems, I would probably be pretty upset. So I'm going to take it apart and see if I can figure out some of this stuff, and if I can, we'll go over that. If not, on the next step, we'll do some running with it in comparison to some other engines. So in taking it apart here, I did find a couple things, and just out of curiosity, if you're wanting to know what these things look like with the shells off, this is a little sneak preview here. If I can get it to zoom. Nope, no such luck. But I did notice around the smoke unit there was a little wire that was hanging down here and kind of grinding on the gear shaft, so I think that's where some of my motor noise was coming from. Also verified that nothing else was in the way of the drivetrain. And up front, these lights here are where the ditch lights are, and then there's a light pipe that's on the front end. These were pushed back in the shell pretty far, so I moved these a little bit further forward so they'll make better contact with the light piping. And also another thing I noticed here, in the interior of the shell, you'll see some of that gray foam there. That's to help light bleed through. That wasn't there in a previous Paragon 2. It's actually in my old video here I was pointing out that there was a bleed through that was coming through here on the front cab window. So they've at least fixed that part of it. And just taking a look at the decoder here, I believe this blue wire, that's actually the antenna signal for Paragon 3 for the subwoofer. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together here. I did run it for a little bit with the shell off. Sounds a little bit better as far as like the grinding in the gears and things like that. Relubed the trucks here also. They weren't too bad. And like I said, nothing else is binding up in here. Still, I'm getting a little bit of static out of these speakers, so I don't know if it's the decoder or the speakers, maybe a combination of both. Maybe at some future point I'll just rip all of this out of here and put lock sound in it. Who knows? So for now, I'm just going to put it back together with the shell on there, and we'll see at least if a couple of these issues are fixed. So afterwards of having it apart here, I got it back together, and I think I fixed almost all the problems. So the first and most serious thing was the drivetrain noise, so we'll go ahead and move it forward. Nice and quiet now. And ditch lights seem to be a little bit better. You can actually tell that they're on now. And also shell rattle there. Take a listen. Slight hint of it, but nowhere near as bad anymore. So I think I got pretty much all the gremlins worked out of it. So the next thing here is we'll try to match it up and see what kind of pull power it is. This was my previous diesel champion, at least the Paragon 2 was. It was the only engine that was able to outpull the MTH ES44. Since then, in the year and a half or so since we've tested that engine, there's been a couple that have beaten that engine, which the first one was the Intermountain Tier 4s. And then recently the Scale Trains Tier 4 was even better than that one. So we're going to match this one up against the Scale Trains and see how it outpulls it, or if it can. Alright, so here we go. This is going to be for the title of Strongest Pulling Single Diesel Engine in HO Scale. The current champion thus far has been the Scale Trains Tier 4. It has outpulled every other single engine diesel that's pretty much out there. So we'll see how the Broadway matches up to it. If I had to guess on this, I mean, the Scale Trains certainly feels like a heavier model, so I think it's going to win, but I've been proven wrong before. So I'll both match them up to speed step 1. Oh. False start there. Pretty dead heat there. We'll move them up to speed step 10. Nobody's budging. We'll go 25. still a dead heat. We'll go up to half throttle. Dead heat. Well, I'm going to shut them off here. So, in all fairness, we have to pretty much declare that a draw. So, at this point in time, you're looking at the two strongest single diesels that you can buy as far as pull power goes. So, pretty impressive there. A little bit better showing out of the Ac6000 one than what I thought it would do. So, let's wrap it up. So you saw it there in action, and whatever it has for issues and pros and cons there. So a few things that I think about this one here. As far as what's out there on the market, as far as Ac6000s, Broadway's pretty much your only game in town. So your only choices is between previous issues of Broadway. For this particular scheme, it's only been done in Paragon 2 and 3. So it's not like you can go and find a Paragon 1 or a blue line model, because this particular paint scheme was never done outside of those. So, I mean, they're pretty much the only game in town, so you don't really have any other choices. They don't really have any competition beyond themselves. So, I mean, a few things on the model. As far as the drivetrain, it's not the quietest thing out there. It's not even the best that I've saw from Broadway. It's basically not a whole lot different than when these first came out in Paragon 1, probably close to 10 years ago. They've certainly improved a few things on it, and whether it's an issue of whether it's better than a Paragon 2, I would say that probably is a little bit better, just because the lighting issue seems to have been worked out. Sound is definitely better on the Paragon 3. However, if you have thoughts of modifying this or ripping out the sound that's in it and putting in lock sound or something else that's better, I would probably just go with whatever's cheapest. A couple other things I did notice on this one. It seems like on the top grab irons here on the Paragon 2 versions that those are kind of ridiculously oversized. It seems like these are a little more close to realistic. Also, the material for the railings is among the best I've saw on models. It's a super durable material, so you're really not going to run into braking issues there or anything like that. It's not going to fall apart on you like some other manufacturers do, and they're certainly not under scale. Pull power is certainly fantastic, so no real complaints there. Factory LEDs, which is pretty much the industry standard. Smoke, something that could have certainly done without, and that just kind of unnecessarily raises the price point. I really wish that the model companies would stop giving us features that we don't want or don't need, and just kind of unnecessarily raise the cost of the price. And then, you know, maybe focus a little bit more on clarity of the LEDs, eliminating some of these little tiny issues that you have out of the box. A little more work on quality control. I can't be too critical of this one because it is a refurbished model, so typically with refurbished models, they are not perfect. Everything with this one seems like it was a fixable issue. A couple little things that still need to be fixed yet, but I think they're things that I can handle. So how it compares to other diesels out there, it is a little bit more on the price. I mean, these brand new typically go for around $240, $235. That's about the best you're going to do. That's certainly more than what a Tier 4s are going to go for. Some of the other newer diesels that are out there, even the Tier 3 Gevos, a little bit less than these. So it is a little bit on the pricey side as far as an engine goes, but again, Broadway's the only game in town, so they can kind of get away with it. Would I buy another one of these? Potentially. You know, if I came across one of these in the YN2 scheme to match this one, and then maybe sell off my older blue line model, maybe I would do that. So in closing, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd have to say this is probably a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's pretty close. There's just a couple little issues. If you're a really good modeler, I think you can overcome them. So not a huge deal. And again, pretty fantastic overall. So pretty happy with this one. If you want to pick one of these up, Broadway still has a couple of these for sale. If you go onto their webpage, they have a refurbished outlet, and you can choose from HO scale and N scale. They do change almost daily because they don't have a whole lot of these, and as they sell out, they disappear. and you can get a really good deal on there if you find one that's still in stock. So again, like I said, I paid about $197 for this, free shipping. So that's a pretty good deal. So that's about it for this one. Got some more things coming up in the future, but hope you enjoyed.